Hi and welcome back to my channel for a new art journaling video. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas time, and maybe on the second day of Christmas you have a little bit time to relax and do a little bit of crafting or get inspired. So today I have another art journal page in one of my handmade journals using the Faber-Castell Gelatos. And I believe I will also use one of the distress crayons. To be true, I don't see any difference in these products. I have already primed my page with gesso and add a little bit of stamping with the rubber dense grungy circles using StazOn Ink, as this is waterproof. And then I went in with the gelatos and I use a little bit of water, my fingers and also a brush to blend in the colors. I have linked up the video of the making of such a journal in the top right corner info box. There is also a voting in the info box where I'd like to know from you which journals you prefer. Is it a homemade journal? Is it an old book? Or is it a journal you buy especially for mixed media? I have a little bit too much of that yellow on my page, so I use a baby wipe and get some of it off. I dry my layers in between because some problems I often have with the gelatos or the distress crayons is that I create mud with them. It's so easy to let them look brown or gray, and that's something I don't really like about them. And to be true, I only use these because I have them. If I run out of them, I will not buy those again. I prefer the Neo color crayons. They are more pigmented and higher quality, and I don't like that the gelato seems not to dry because it's always such a waxy surface, and sometimes it's hard to use glue on top. Often the pieces fall off because of that waxy surface. After blending in that pink, I also go in with a baby wipe and remove some of the color to get that white back a little bit more. I also dry this layer with my heat tool before I go in with the blue, and here I just cleaned up the top of my blue color because often it's contaminated with another color, and then you always have a risk to create mud on your page. And I am not very happy with that blue because you can see it here, it's not very highly pigmented. It's just such a soft blue and it's smeary, and I am absolutely not happy with it. Here I go in with a darker shade of blue because I try to intensify the blue a little bit more to make the background look more interesting with that complementary colors. But also this blue is I think the yellow and the pinks worked much better. And here when you dilute the blues with water, it's a smeary thing and it looks not very highly pigmented. And as you see, it's so easy to create a grayish muddy color with the gelatos. When this layer is dry, I pick the distress crayon, peacock feathers, and blend that in with my fingers. I really like that peacock feathers beneath my pinks and yellows. I really love that rainbow background. And when everything is dry, I go in with my palette knife and the gesso and add some more white to the page. Also because I am working on a craft paper and the first layer of gesso I've added to the page was not 100% opaque, and this brightens up the page much more and adds also a higher contrast, and a high contrast always makes a page look more interesting. When the background is completely dry, I go in with one of our doodle border stamps and create a frame around my page. I'm using StazOn Ink for that. I don't go for a perfect frame, I just stamp it without an acrylic block, and I also stamp it sometimes twice in some areas to create more of a loose style. When you click on the top right corner info box, there is also linked a art journaling video where I've used gelatos to create the background. For the focal point on this page, I will use the Merry Magpie from Rubber Dance. It's stamped to tissue paper, and before I adhere it to the page, I add some additional stamping. I add some words which I believe also come with the set. I don't have all our sets completely in my mind. I know a lot of them, but there are so many that sometimes I am not 100% sure where the stamps are on, but I will link all the sets I've used in this video in my description box. I will stamp these little gemstones I've stamped to the page, also to a jelly printed paper, and I picked one where I have also some white spots in between because that makes the gemstones glow a little bit more. And now I cut them out and will adhere them to the page just where I have stamped the gemstones before. For those of you who are passionate about stamping, I'd like to tell you that Rubber Dance is actually running a design team call, and I will link the information in my description box, and if you're interested you might check that out. It is open until December 31st. I use gel medium to glue down the bird. And when you use gel medium on top of the gelatos, you have to take care not to use your brush too often over the same area, because you will reactivate the gelatos and then create also a muddy background. So I'm working pretty fast here and try not to contaminate the other areas. When you don't like that little border you can see from the tissue paper, you can go back in with the gelatos and blend just a little bit in with your finger. I like to add some shimmer to my gemstones, and therefore I'm using the Rembrandt Chameleon watercolors, and here you can see it a little. It's a super shimmery watercolor and I really love that. It looks also very interesting when you paint it to black paper. And now I will add just some splatters in gold and also some splatters in white to make my page look more vibrant. And here is my finished page. I hope you enjoyed today's video and I hope we see us next time. Bye!